to episode 52 of China Talk. Oh, man. We have not gotten old at all. Anyways. So, LPL is winding down. Rather close. How many weeks do we have left? This is week 8 that we've gone past, I think, or week 9?
Week 8, we
8.
just finished.
This is week 9 coming up.
It's confusing to me because we used to be 1 week ahead of LCS and now we're not. So just
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Demacia Cup!
Woo! Still got a few weeks to go, 3 more weeks, week 9, week 10, and week 11. Usually that would be the time for teams to pretty much troll out, but a new day has come.
New day.
Where teams actually care about the playoff format. So I guess that leads into the first topic really well. Oh my god, teams care. So, they cared so quickly that it was like, whoa, what are we doing? Alright, get Koro in here. Everybody in the proper seating. By me is like, do I get to play? Get out of here, buddy. We're done with you. We're done with you.
No more, baby.
Hit the road.
Amazing Jay's like, but I said in that Demacia Cup interview that I'm literally the best. Well, you're not! Spoiler!
You're not, sorry. We would have told you before, but we only got the playoff format this week.
I like how the narrative was that both Koro 1 and Pawn were injured. So, like, leading up to Demacia Cup, Pawn was magically, like, recovered just in time for Demacia Cup. Yeah. And then after Demacia, and then, like, as the format changes, Koro magically recovers.
I was surprised at the speediness of Koro's recovery as soon as the playoff format was announced.
Oh, by the way, we would like to introduce our friend Xiaoxi to the panel.
Oh, of course. Yes. I knew.
Drexen isn't here today because he had another obligation, but we asked Xiaoxi to come, and he hasn't been very vocal, but, I mean, he looks kind of pretty, so...
There we go. Is he to my right? Where is he? Where am I?
He's, to your left and down.
Bottom diagonally.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if I did that properly.
He's not looking at you, it doesn't matter.
Well, yep. Xiaoxi, looking spiffy, did really well. We'll talk about him a lot later on, because I'll just say LDG. Nah, Lemon Dogs. Legend Dragons. This is just coming right all around. I'm sad. So anyways, LGD Hype Train has boarded. So let's talk about the playoff format, actually. Let's get in depth about that, because just before this episode, I actually had to ask myself, because what is this thing? It looks like a monster. It really does, with like 5 different heads. So, do we have it up on the screen right now?
No. Is this something that I was supposed to do?
No. So, no. I even if, like, I
Here, I'm going to link something in chat for people who are watching. So that they can...
I like to surprise them. It's just like, alright, get the graphic up. No. Where's the dragon? Where's the 3D Demacia Cup dragon? I thought we had that ready for this episode.
Okay, this has been a really weird episode. Anyway, already. So we're talking about the Demacia Cup format, which...
No. Playoff format.
No, playoff format, excuse me. Which has changed suddenly. And a lot of people have argued that it shouldn't have changed suddenly, that towards the end of this doesn't give teams enough notice. Waiting for the train to go by.
Oh, sounds like the story of my life.
Yeah. This doesn't give the teams enough notice, but the long-standing tradition in LPL is changing the playoff format at the last minute. See, because last spring they announced at the very end that it wasn't going to be double elim when it was supposed to be from the start. And then the split before at the very end, they announced that it was going to be double elimination when it wasn't supposed to be beforehand. So it's just in keeping with tradition. Like, if you don't expect it at this point as an LPL team, you should just assume it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just how it is. At least with the previous format changes, they were reasonable in the sense that it was like, it still has the same value, except I have a second chance, or at least I don't have a second chance. This time it's like teams coasting by at 8th place or something, like little Vici Gaming coming here is like, oh, well, we have enough time, let's just get rid of this carry top laner here. I'll come up in the top lane. We have enough time. You know, it doesn't matter where we are in the standings as long as we are in 7th or 4th or whatever random placement we are. And they find out, oh, actually, it did matter. Oh, we should have kept our old top laner. We should have been as strong as we were in the spring split, because you know what? Now we are coming in here completely shat on. So like let's just go to the gauntlet elimination thing. 7th place versus 8th place. This is the most amazing match. We're starting off this playoff with the most with the best set here. Winner of that one goes on to face 6th place. So it's already, you can tell this is like a gauntlet, kind of similar to Korea, in which they had the gap.
I was confused at the part where you said it was like a gauntlet initially.
Really?
And then you said it was like a gauntlet. See that? That's
I hate you.
As you can already see, this is a gauntlet. As you can already see, this is a gauntlet.
It is a gauntlet, just so you know.
Just in case you were confused, it is actually a gauntlet.
It's a gauntlet. Anyways,
yes.
So when let's say this magical World Elite team moves up to the 8th place, impossible already, but let's say World Elite, because we all love to believe in World Elite. So World Elite gets 8th place. World Elite has to play 7th place team. I don't give a hell. What is it?
Right now, that would be Invictus Gaming.
Invictus Gaming. Let's say magically Luca turns into the carry top laner. They beat out Invictus Gaming. They go into 6th place. They go to face 6th place, and whoever it is, they smash 6th place. Masters 3. They smash Masters 3. That's not even that unbelievable. So
it's really not. So that's like the thing about where I don't care that they changed the format so close to the end, because literally the point, how close teams are in the standings, is just like 1 point between each placing. It's not that hard to move up or down right now. Like if you're a truly good team that's been sandbagging, you can move up pretty easily.
You can go all up.
This week.
Moving on.
Places they moved up.
And if you are a truly bad team like M3, you will get stomped quite convincingly, like they did. So let's say World Elite moves on to the next seeding here. So they face 5th place team. Guess what? Suddenly you have a safety net under you. You lose. Let's say you lose to who's LGD. Oh my God, that's just heartbreaking. I knew you didn't expect that, World Elite. So now, because you were a lower seeding and you lost, especially, you go up against the 3rd place team, who is
OMG.
Snake. OMG. Believable? They might win? Okay, so you beat OMG. Oh, that's beautiful. All right, you're going on through. While let's just say, well, I don't even care what happens in the top seeding. Let's say LGD wins. So now final stage. Everything matters here. Guess what happens? No, actually, should I go on to? You know what? Two scenarios.
You lost us all. Two
scenarios. Two scenarios. You win. You beat 3rd place position because you are the lower seeded team, regardless of whether or not you won the 5th place position. You have to face EDG. You have to face face the 1st place team, regardless of where if you won a while to the 5th place team. If you beat that 5th place team, regardless of that, final stages just simply mean it takes your regular season seeding, and just lower seed goes up against 1st place team, higher seed goes up against 2nd place team. And of course, if you lose that, you go into 3rd place match, blah blah blah. You know that's just where it heads there, and it all takes into, and the winner of that, I think, gets circuit points. Is that anybody? Okay.
Well, you all get circuit points of some kind.
Everybody, you get a lot more circuit points, I suppose.
You get 450 for winning, 300 for 2nd, 150 for 3rd, 100 for 4th, 60 for 5th and 6th, and then 60 for 7th and 8th. So.
Oh, okay. So, how do you guys like it? Let's go with that. Do you like the new seating?
I think it's not a huge deal to me. I think the biggest difference, and we were talking about this a little bit before we hopped on call and started the show, is that to your point, once you get to the final stage, if you are a team who was in the lower ranking, and then suddenly you're like, oh, it doesn't matter that I already beat 3rd place in the quarterfinals, I have to face EDG in the semis. So I think that's probably the primary difference. So whoever if that like if a 7th or 8th seed does end up making it through the gauntlet, they're still kind of screwed. I mean, there was that whole last split in playoffs. WE did manage to take EDG to 5 games before Han's like miraculous appearance, but I think that's probably the biggest difference. So teams are definitely going to want to probably, instead of like sandbagging for those seeds so they could face like a certain opponent on one side of the bracket, they're now going to try to jostle themselves slightly up so they're not like 7th or 8th, I guess, at like in the lower seeds. I mean, we saw a huge difference in attitude from a couple of teams this
and
week.
I guess the thing is that if you are, say, the second best team and you happen to be in the 7th place seed, and you could have, say, beat Chaogu, since I think Chaogu has like 5 points over other teams, and they seem to be reliably splitting everything still. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna keep their seed probably. Yeah. So let's say that you are legitimately the second best team and you are 7th seed. And you make it all the way to the end and you have to face first place Edward Gaming instead of facing Chaogu, who you could have beaten. You still fall to the 3rd place match, where if you're legitimately the second best team, you'll probably win that, and you still get 150 points, which is pretty nice in terms of regionals qualification. So
okay. What will that do to a team like Chaogu, though? Let's say if they go up against I guess they face a lower seeded team, and let's say if Chaogu loses and goes to the 3rd place match, they still get the 3rd place. They win the 3rd place set. Is that a respectable enough amount of circuit points to get them through regionals?
I haven't looked at it exactly, but I think depending on who the other teams are, it should be pretty good because it's the top 5 point earners.
Oh yeah.
And the most after 100 points, after 3rd place, the most anyone got from Spring was 80. So it's actually pretty nice to teams that are brand new to the scene, who qualify. Like Chaogu was also already given 30 points for winning LSPL. So it's not like they're completely naked. Like that 30 points could actually matter a lot.
Yeah, it seems like the difference between 30 points and like OMG had 50 points. So they're in 5th place right now. At least they're tied for 5th place along with King, World Elite, Vici Gaming. All of them right now seem like they're they have no name. Like they're done. So Chaogu seems like they have actually a very, very real, not even just a possibility. I feel like it's assured at this point that they're in 5th place, just with the seeding alone. Even if they just get 3rd place, that's all that matters. 4th place, I mean, they have to go up against like Team King, World Elite. So I think they still get in, but that's whatever.
And of course, the really nice, cushy thing about placing 1st or 2nd in the regular season, and the position that EDG and Chaogu are in right now, is that you're guaranteed 4th in regionals. So that's nice, and that's why EDG is like guaranteed to. I mean, they're probably gonna qualify. Like they also, if the summer winner also auto qualifies. By the way.
So now going into the quality of these games and the quality of these teams, Snake is a team that has actually just raised a lot of eyebrows based on their play throughout the entirety of the season, I reckon. But lately, actually, this past week, they've done extremely well for themselves, and they've gone 3-1 against LGD and OMG. So, question is now, how do you guys feel about them? Have they picked up the massive pile of what seems to be questionable plays and picks and whatever? Have they improved, or have they always had that within them? I don't even know how that question's supposed to go. So let's start with Kelsey.
So Snake, I think I probably would have rated them like 3rd or 4th going into this week anyway. In terms of, I actually thought OMG was doing pretty well, but they still have the same drafting flaws. They still have the same weird quirks that Cool has always had, where he just like insists on playing champions he sucks at for some reason. He says, "No, I can really play Azir. I really can." But, and the limited champion pools that Xiong has, and obviously I think that Snake is in a place where they have a pretty well-rounded roster. So that's not going to necessarily fly against them. But I still think Snake has the problem where they can't lane swap, and that's not something we saw this weekend. Except for in the case where LGD did that really creative and complicated swap thing and then just like completely steamrolled them, and Snake was like, what is even happening? Where are we? What is my name?
What is
hello?
going on?
Team, hello? What is this Diana in my face? I don't understand.
That was pretty sad for them.
So, yeah, I think that's still going to be a limitation that they'll have. But I think that, fourth place, being fourth is pretty good. I would put them fourth.
Yeah. Okay. Emily?
Whenever I've written about them kind of this year, I've been like, oh, like, I know they look like they're kind of crazy and not making any sense, but they are a good team. I think the interesting thing, if you watch them this week, is that they chose to play ZZR and Martin, which I've never been the biggest Crystal fan anyway, but I think especially in this AD carry meta, and I know I said it last week too, I think that Martin fits a lot more. I think it frees up Ella a lot more, so Ella can go roam, which is something that's really important to Snake's success. And I actually
have to lose half his health taking creeps. I won't let that go. It just drives me crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Oh wow, that might even help their lane swapping, to be honest, where he's just like actually doing something.
I actually like ZZR too, and he was someone who I was kind of like meh on previously when I saw him in Demacia Cup, because he was just kind of there. He had a lot of issues in their like first few matches. I thought he was pretty hesitant. I really like his echo though. Like, I think his echo is really good. I think his Rek'Sai is really good. He's had a couple of good games on Gragas. That was also the champion he was kind of meh on before. But I do like that he seems to be creating and applying a lot more early pressure than Beast did. And he also, like, even in the loss, I did like his Nidalee better than Beast. So, I mean, there's that too. I think that Snake's always going to be that, like, really good 5v5 team. And another thing ZZR proved, I thought this weekend, was that he had some really good teamfight targeting too. Which I liked, and it really, really worked with you, who's obviously like just a fantastic team fighter. So, I'm pretty high on Snake. I'd put them, it's hard. And against Chaogu for third, I guess, and I'd put them behind Chaogu currently, but I think they have a higher ceiling that they can hit.
And so here's my question on, because whenever people compare Martin and, God, I've already forgotten about that, man. Crystal. Fan to fan even, haha. But whenever people make that comparison, it's always, well, I'd much rather prefer Martin, etc., etc. But when it comes to the jungle position, actually, I don't hear that all too much. So here's my question: who do you guys tend to prefer? They might have different styles, but do they work for the team in and of itself? So do you, I'm gonna direct that to, you know what, Emily, just since you just hot off your last point, do you prefer ZZR or do you prefer Beast for the team, or do you think that they serve different purposes?
I think they serve kind of different purposes. I think right now with the meta, I prefer ZZR actually, which isn't something I would have honestly said after the Demacia Cup, but something I will say this weekend. So, or after this past weekend, because I did think his play is a lot improved. He seems a lot less intimidated to make moves around the map, which is something that's really important because, like I said, I feel that Snake is bringing him in so that they can have a lot more early pressure, because Beast, he was really good at 5v5 team fighting, and he was really good at getting vision down, but I don't think he was the best at creating early pressure in lanes as much. And I do think that ZZR is a little bit better than that, better at that. So I think with the current meta the way it is, I like ZZR. But I think if Snake ever just wanted to go back to that like crazy stalling, like hyper scaling kind of composition, I do think that Beast might be better for that, because ZZR still does do a few, like, I guess he makes a few questionable decisions that might get in the way of that. Although Beast kind of did that too when they were trying to transition him into like an early to mid game jungler. So it's hard. Right now, I prefer ZZR though in the in this meta.
Do you share the same thoughts, Kelsey? Do you think that he's like what do you think about ZZR versus Beast?
So I was thinking about this a lot, and I came to this conclusion that I think that Beast, they picked up ZZR because he is going to play this more carry style role as the jungle falls into like these Elise champions, these Nidalee champions, Evelynn champions, that are becoming more popular again. I feel like Beast's role was much more about team fighting in terms of the champions that he picked and played and was successful with last split. I don't think necessarily ZZR changes the early pressure as much. I think he has a higher ceiling in terms of early pressure and like which lanes he and his successful ganks, but he's super inconsistent, whereas I feel like Beast was just like really consistent. He'd have like medium pressure in every game and that was fine. Whereas I feel like ZZR is just like, sometimes he's really good and he'll dive and he'll get all these kills and he'll snowball, but other times he just like literally does nothing and it's really weird. It's like almost Clear Love Redux.
We have another one.
He studies Clear Love and solo queue. It's the same person, they're both high in solo queue, oh my gosh!
Oh my god!
What are we gonna see? EDG versus Snake matchup? ZZR versus Clear Love? It turns out they're actually the same person.
It's like straight out of a Hollywood movie. It's like, how do I play in two chairs at once? No.
But I think they probably picked him up more for a champion pool, and watching his pathing, I noticed he tends to position much more to the top side. I don't know if this is something that, like, could have been trained into Beast or not. It seems like something that could have been. It's just like, oh, be on the top side of the map. That seems straightforward, but ZZR just like tends to do that. So
yeah. Here's my conspiracy theory. You may disagree, or yeah, it really comes down to this, because I feel like in the LPL, obviously, the coveted Korean position matters so much. Have two Koreans in your team, that's just, you better have really good Koreans, or else, you know, yeah, you're just not, it's just not efficient. You're not being efficient with your... It's not efficient. You're just not being
You're wasting your two Korean slots, yeah.
Exactly. You gotta have a profitable Korean. I'm
wow.
sorry.
Stop.
LSPL joke.
I'm sorry.
No, stop.
I'm sorry.
For those of you who don't know, Profit is the name of the top laner for Young Glory, who Save was benched for, by the way.
There we go.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory here is that Beast and ZZR kind of, they have their own things going on, but they're not really that far and different in the sense of what they achieve, or at least one is not clearly better than the other. So, let's say you put Beast to the side and you bring up, you make use of your Korean free Korean slot, and you get either a Korean top laner, though you can't touch Flandre. He is.
Yeah, I think Flandre is like
Flandre's really
immaculate, pristine.
Can't touch Flandre.
He's the shot caller. He's the crazy whatever he's supposed to be doing thing.
And then I would say bench Martin, but maybe Martin does too well. Well, here's the thing. Suddenly, you finds himself in a position.
Once again, bench you. Let's just keep going. Because people, for whatever reason, don't see the value of a late game team fighting mid laner just because he doesn't flash on top of you and kill you in the first 5 minutes of the game. God damn it.
He's gonna get replaced by
you, I will seriously cry.
He'll just get replaced as M3 finds themselves falling. Oh no, we fell into relegation. No, we're not a team anymore. Well, now they have Dade floating into the abyss. Wait a minute. Snake just grabs Dade up and be like, we can use him as a mid laner.
They wouldn't be
I'm
able
sorry,
to
I just
transfer
nightmare scenario. I'm sorry I went in this direction.
No, but it's true. Talking about. Okay, so I'm glad you brought up you. Okay.
Okay.
I think Yu is very undervalued for what he provides to the team, which is like the maximization of cooldown usage in late game and positioning his ultimates, using like fighting, making sure that Snake can come back from these weird scenarios. That's what he was good at on EDG. It's what he's good at now on Snake. The synergy between Flandra and Yu is like you can literally like Flandra is the rabid dog who's been on his leash for far too long. He can't take it. Like Yu is literally the fact that Yu is there and Yu is on the team. It's just like go nuts, have fun, bite all the foreign kids.
Do your thing.
It's like I don't know what do rabid dogs do.
I don't even. I guess sometimes they bite off.
They do bite people. Yeah.
And it's always the foreign kids that run, so it's like, okay, that's actually.
Well, the foreign kids, I was thinking of like Worlds, if they wanted to make Worlds, and this was like their strategy. Okay. Anyway,
I thought it was a mini Worlds because that's China and Korea. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't actually think this team will make Worlds, but strategically speaking, like Flandra, they're a pretty big dark horse team. And if you let Flandra off his leash, he can go crazy. And sometimes it really backfires. Okay, sometimes it really backfires, but other times he's really successful with it, and he snowballs like crazy, in which, what do top laners do in this meta to be successful? They snowball like crazy. But if it backfires, you have Yu, who's just like, it's okay, baby, I'll just play Victor, and we'll win this team fight, and it's fine.
Yeah.
So their synergy is really high in that respect, and I think they work really well on this team for that reason. And the decision to move the team to be more about their solo laners within the current meta, given the fact that they have this high synergy and they work off of each other like that, is a good decision, in my estimation.
I just want it 6 months from now, 7 months even, I don't care. I just want to see 7 months from now, zoom into the future. How many Koreans are on that team? Is B still on that team? If he's not on that team, and if another Korean's on that team, what happened? Where's Yu? If he's not on that team, I've lost hope in all of
Maybe
that.
Maybe they're trying to get Chaser. Maybe that's the end game. It's like, we see Korea.
I don't think Chaser will work on that team.
It's like, there's still one Korean jungler who's supposedly good. We thought we got them all. Let's quick grab a Chinese boy. Someone we can somehow.
As much as in the defense of Beast, like as much as I just spent the entire time saying how ZZR would be better in this meta, and then Kelsey kind of also backed that up with his champion pool and stuff. Beast, he was really good at one thing last split. I do feel like he's improved this split, and he also a lot of times when people talk about Korea now, they talk about who are the junglers that are left? You brought up Chaser. Chaser's the best jungler, but then the conversation always comes to, what junglers are left in Korea? And then in Korea, Beast migrated over from, being on a really bad team in Champions.
Really bad, yeah.
And
was Big Pile Miracle, was it? Or?
Yeah, it was Big Pile Miracle.
Yeah.
And he has actually done really well against those same junglers that were in Korea and Champions, so deserve a little bit of credit.
No, I don't think Beast is a bad jungler. I think he was great for the meta last split.
Yeah.
The other
EZR is better now, though. I just wanted to give my in defense of Beast rant.
What I actually am more likely to believe, because I think June, from the accounts that I hear, is that June's value is in understanding team dynamic and the way teams work together and setting up these compositions, not necessarily in drafting, because we all know he's pretty terrible at drafting. But this is the strength, and people on the team give him a lot of credit for that. So I would think it's more along the lines of when this season started, they picked up ZZR because he was an extremely high-rated solo queue jungler. Okay, so they picked him up as a sub. He had a 7th place Ionia Challenger account. Fast forward to a week before they put him on the roster, he had 2 Ionian Challenger accounts in the top 10. So the guy was working really hard, practicing really hard. So you kind of think a lot of teams will use this against players where they'll say, okay, if you get to this ranking will we put you back on the team. Like OMG supposedly is using it with Going. Supposedly LGD used it on TBQ, and now that like you have ZZR, who suddenly, as soon as he gets 2 accounts in top 10 challenger, he's put on the roster effectively. Yeah. So for me, that's not necessarily a coincidence. It's like, okay, this guy's doing really well. Let's reward him for working hard and see if he makes the team better. And maybe they try him out in scrims. They have this tournament called Demacia Cup where it presents a really unique opportunity. It doesn't affect your LPL standings, and you still have like a higher competitive environment than scrims to try out things and rosters. So then they liked how they did, maybe, and decided to use him again in LPL.
Yeah.
I think that's a good call. I think all of Snake's decisions this split, actually, like from the off season to now, have been like really reflective of how well they do understand where specific players fit within the team dynamic.
Yeah. Well, I gotta stop ourselves here. The love of Snake we're putting way too much love in Snake. Another team is really in need of it right now. Xiaogu. So Xiaogu is a team right now. They're second place. They're very, very highly ranked, but not getting a lot of credit. Not getting a lot of credit at all, actually. It's actually being compared to the split one, spring split Snake. So here's the question. How bad is it? Are they really bad? I'm going to actually start with Kelsey again because I feel like I can already see the rage building within her.
I'm not angry about it.
It's okay, let it out, Kelsey.
I feel like people are saying this just because it turned out to be true for Snake. And we were saying it the entire time for Snake, and then it turned out to be true for Snake. And so now they're assuming that any team that comes up from LSPL and does super well is going to also be Snake in playoffs and collapse in playoffs.
It's almost as if you have to watch the team play to really to get an actual understanding of how well they are.
But for me, the thing that's different about Xiaogu is, first of all, they have really mature members on their team that have been around the block before. It's not like Snake, where everyone is of questionable validity to compete in terms of like how old they are, actually. It's like TNT has been around for ages. He used to be on the old Livermore roster. He's been on the old LMQ roster. He's actually played with TCT before. TCT has played in North America and China. And Swift has been on a decent team, I guess. I wouldn't call them like a top Korean team, but he's been on a relatively decent team, a decent organization in Korea. Hero has coached a team in China before. And they made top 3 while he was coaching them. So I think they kind of have a better understanding of what it takes to figure out the meta to stay competitive within this kind of environment. And it's reflected in what they play. They play more experimental things, whereas like Snake just played the same dragon team fighting comps. They just kept playing Maokai. People kept lane swapping them, and they didn't figure things out. Whereas Xiaogu is actually one of the most frequently lane swapping teams, even though in LSPL that's not necessarily what you might think of them as, right? You wouldn't necessarily think of them as a lane swapping team. Like, they were kind of an all-in, we're just going to fight you all the time kind of team. Now they lane swap more. They pick like more interesting compositions. They thought about, okay, King plays a lot of Yasuo. Let's just run Nautilus mid. Which sounds ridiculous, but if you guys watch King games and notice how much King loves Yasuo, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like Xiaogu has shown more dimensions, and something that gets brought up a lot is they have low dragon control. Well, I've noticed with the dragon control statistics is they don't actually vary a lot in LPL. Everyone is actually really close to 50% dragon control. It's a very important objective. People pay a lot of attention to it. Sometimes teams just go all the way to 4 dragons without any contesting. And then the next game, the other team will do that, and it just doesn't seem to make any sense. Yeah. But it's directly proportional to how frequently the team lane swaps, and Xiaogu is in top 5 lane swap frequency teams, so it makes sense that they're in bottom 5 dragon control teams because they're going to miss like the first couple dragons and just decide not to contest them because they're dual lanes to top. So that's my Chaogu rant.
There we go. I was ready for it. It's not anger, unfortunately. I wanted to hear some anger, but we won't hear Kelsey rage today. I don't even think I've ever heard Kelsey rage. Ugh, sad news. One day I will find. I will poke the bear.
Hang out with me while I'm watching some OMG games, like.
I think actually now it's all coming back to me. Well,
what are you doing? What?
Fucking move! Alright, Emily.
Yo.
Chaogu. Shed a tear for these people. Alright.
No, I think when looking at Chaogu, I was actually one of the people in the beginning before they started competing in this split of LPL. And I was like, I don't really like Chaogu. They're boring. They were very much like in LSPL, I saw them a lot more as like a win game kind of team. And then Swift would do the same things he always did in Korea that either like worked out or didn't because he'd go in without the support of his team. And I think
perspective. There we go.
And then now Chaogu is like, you still have to look at Swift. But I think an unexpected factor aiding Swift in being slightly less reckless and kind of supporting him is Doinby.
Oh yeah, there it is. There's the Doinby hype. Let's go. Let's ride it.
I call him the Doinby hype.
And I was like completely unimpressed with him in LSPL, and he has been super impressive in LPL, and not for the things that people usually evaluate mid laners on. And I know Kelsey already went on her rant, but I also disapprove of just looking at 1v1 kills and saying, oh, this is super important for getting a good mid laner. But Doinby is basically like Swift's little buddy and keeps him safe. He can play an incredible variety of champions, and I really think that he deserves a lot more credit. And it's hard because TNT is also like, I honestly think he's the best AD carry in the world like right now. He's doing fantastic. So Chaogu has evolved a great deal, and they're like significantly better than where they were at in the LSPL, and also even where they were in the beginning of this LPL season. So while I think that initially the comparisons to Snake were apropos because you had this team that you didn't really know if they were going to be able to kind of like stretch out their dimensions, I feel like Chaogu has proven that they're trying. Like they're trying in every single game to really stretch out and prepare for playoffs. And now they honestly also just get rewarded for trying all throughout the season and as well. And so they're going to place pretty high, which is good for them. I mean, they get rewarded for playing well throughout the regular season.
And another thing I've noticed about Chaogu is that for a team that won a lot of games in LSPL off of snowballs, their decision-making from behind is actually pretty intelligent. Like, they understand how to keep the waves pushed out. They understand how to ward the jungle and mitigate losses. They understand, like, how to position their Janna against a siege. Like, they love their Janna. I'm actually really... My big question mark for Chaogu, as much as we're, like, hyping them or whatever, is what they do without as many disengaged champions that they tend to draft. Like, if you deny the big disengage picks from them, like the Echo and the Janna and all this other stuff, where do they go?
They go in.
Is Raz gonna fall asleep again this episode?
No, I'm listening. No. My eyes are on it, actually. I'm actually extremely overly hyphy. I don't know. Maybe it's the coffee. No, it's decaf. That's a lie. Drinking decaf, forgot about that. I just let you talk. So my question is then to you guys, since we want to talk about how incorrect the Snake comparison is, or at least the old Snake. Any team in the world, who would you compare Chaogu to? Their style, that is. I have one in mind. I want to see if you guys get one as well. I'm gonna go with Emily because you seem to be like have some massive.
I was gonna say no. I was like, didn't we do this? And then now I have to bring up. Oh, we didn't do Chaogu. I
No, we
was gonna
didn't.
say.
We did because they
We
got
did the
eliminated.
Demacia Cup
I
teams.
thought I wrote something down for Chaogu though.
Oh,
Oh
it's
man.
Here we go.
Any team in the world?
Yeah.
Huh. That's actually really difficult.
I
I'm
have
go.
mine 'cause I thought about it for too long.
All right, then you go first. Because
No. You go. I'm the host. I have to wait till afterwards.
For me, it's so hard because I don't know. It's just they're weird. Like Doinby is so weird. I actually think that Doinby understands the mid lane meta probably better. I don't even understand the mid lane meta as well as Doinby. He's like on another level. I don't even know what he's doing, but he's just like whatever. It's like you take this really ridiculous carry jungler and you just play support champions. Or you play tanks, or you play, like, in some instances, you're just like, screw you, I'm playing Cassidy in this game. And
I think he, like, is too liberal with his thought process. He's always, he's always like, what counters a Twisted Fate? Oh, a Magic Shield, yes. Wait a minute, that Twisted Fate's just gonna leave this lane. I better bring Teleport. It's just like, it's just like okay.
He did also play Maokai mid, so you're talking about the same player.
It's like you just take the most literal counters you can think of, and it's just like, why can't I play that mid? Because it's not a mid champion. So?
I'll show you.
Do you have a point? Like, what does this mean?
It's like, I want an essay right here, right now.
It's like,
imagine,
like, I'm imagining Chaogu versus SK Telecom at Worlds. Faker picks Ezreal, and he locks in Braum.
Let's go, mid Braum.
And Faker's just like, what is this?
It's like,
I don't understand.
Just do right now.
It's like, Faker, you said that any champion could be played mid. He's like, yeah, I just didn't think anyone would ever play Braum. No.
It's like tiny little Doinby with giant glasses just sitting across.
Doing his little pursed lip facial expression. It's like, what you gonna do?
God. So just back to the question, guys. So do you guys like think that this team is uncomparable? I suppose is the answer.
My closest thing was gonna be Jin Air, but without the mid laner.
Wow.
Jin Air without the mid laner. I could see that. Yeah.
That's fair.
Just because I don't think, and that's not like a huge slight against GBM or Kuzen. It's more like I'm looking at what Doinby does for Swift, and I don't see either of those mid laners doing that for Chaser. I think Chaser kind of just does it on his own.
The other really weird thing about Doinby is that he's the very bottom for percentage of team gold for mids, which is somewhat surprising when you look at like how often he's involved in stuff. He actually also has, I think, no, he's not the bottom anymore. Yu is actually the bottom now. Interesting. Doinby is the second to the last, and Doinby actually also has the highest kill participation among mids. So he's literally involved in everything, but he's literally like Swift support. Like that's what he is.
He's a support player in
the
mid.
But it's weird because he'll still like have these crazy plays. I don't know. He's such a weird player. But yeah, I think that you can kind of draw the connection with GBM or Kuzan, because I do think that there's, like, GBM in particular is sort of weird. Yeah. But not to the extent that Doinby is, but I think he kind of is flexible in a sense.
Alright. Then I guess it's easier to just put mine out there. Mine would be Ku Tigers, because I feel like Ku Tigers as a team, their dynamic feels like, well, they have a really strong bottom lane, or at least that's the idea that's been thrown around. I guess they are. Yeah, it's pretty strong. Prey and Gorilla, it's like, okay, well, that's just really good. And that's the same idea with TCT and TNT. And you're like, okay, that's probably one of the best bot lanes out there. And then you go into the jungle right now. I don't know too much about who's the new jungle.
I was gonna say now? That's where the analogy falls apart for me.
Yeah,
it's either Wisdom or Lee, and Lee is like really, really one-dimensional, and Wisdom is like similarly one-dimensional, but working out a lot more like recently. I actually just finished an article on Ku Tigers. It's probably coming out like this week or something. But
there we go.
Jin is actually really top-heavy in gold distribution also, whereas almost all of Chaogu's gold goes to either Swift or TNT. Mm-hmm. So they don't actually, like, V is actually a pretty low econ top.
Yeah. And so I feel like the comparison I would make with Ku Tigers would be the bottom lane and the mid lane. The mid lane with Doonby and Kuro. I always felt like Kuro was more of a supportive mid laner, and my real question was because I was like, is he supportive because he's like mechanically not all too intensive, and can we like make the same comparison to Doonby? For a long time I did. I thought Doonby as a like mechanically was just not there. That's why he just played these random champions, but I don't know anymore.
I think he was just trying to find himself, and now he has, and no one's quite sure. It's like he's come out. Okay.
No one but him is sure of who he is.
It's like he's discovered himself, and it's like, this is who I am, man.
Like, what are you? It's like you just gotta accept me.
You just gotta be happy for him. That's all I gotta say.
All right, so let's just go on to the next topic. Just gotta surprise myself here. Oh, that's kind of okay. It's a little out of left field. EDG played Kuro. Oh, God, Kuro. All right, I've made this mistake once before. EDG played Kuro. So yeah, how do you look, and why did it happen? So I guess we already talked about it earlier and about the new playoff format and about that being my reasoning. Magic is also another, I suppose, good reason. So I want to.
In-house doctors.
The house doctors.
I mean, they kept tweeting or like posting on Weibo the pictures of the in-house doctors supposedly treating Kuro and Han.
Yeah.
Apparently they hired the in-house doctors just like a couple weeks ago, so maybe it took them that long to work their magic. And like before that, Kuro was just like dying on a bed somewhere without any help or assistance. And then they're finally like, we need to get a doctor! No, I don't think that EDG in any way mistreats their players, okay? Just throwing that out there. Please don't come assassinate me. Yeah.
I kind of half expect them to have actors and be like, oh God, we need this player coming in next week. How do we send the story out? All right, you dress up like a doctor.
San Shao is the new proprietor of Chinese dramas, starring his.
Oh my gosh, I love San Shao so much. It's just like, why would you ever just hire this guy? Like, I couldn't pay him as much as he's making on EDG, right? But it's just like, who needs soap operas when you can just hire this guy to tell you stories all the time? Like,
San Shao.
So good.
Oh man.
I thought it was
EDG.
okay.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't like honestly, I didn't think he was as good as he was at like during spring finals and then MSI. But that's to be expected considering they haven't played with him in many weeks.
Yeah.
As always, he was boss on Gnar. Like his Gnar was pretty badass. But I was just like, yes, Kuro is back in my LPL playing Gnar. Nothing could be better. Just gonna get
no more Amazing J.
Just gonna get a cigarette and enjoy the snow.
I thought, I think the main thing that my question about EDG or like to EDG directly, if that were to be possible, would be, so what was the point in swapping in Bimey and Amazing J for so long and kind of like fracturing your synergy? Like I've talked about this before, and I am going to write this article, I promise, but like it seems to me that post MSI the two teams kind of swapped, SKT and EDG kind of swapped in terms of like what they were doing, with where you could go down the line and see where SKT was like swapping back and forth between EasyHoon and Faker and then trying out Tom and stuff like that. And it made a lot of sense, even all the way through finals and then going to MSI and then they lost to EDG. And I feel like the two teams kind of like took lessons from each other, but SKT looked better for it in their region this season. Yep. And it's not super comparable because I honestly do think that China is more competitive than Korea is at this point. But I do wonder, like, what was the point of like fracturing that synergy, which was super, super good at MSI for the entirety of the season, if you're just gonna go back to the same roster for playoffs, and I just don't understand. I guess because
go ahead. Sorry.
I guess I get that you want to improve you want to give other players a chance to improve, and I do think that Vici has improved, and I was super down on him before he started for EDG, and I was super down on Amazing J, and I don't think either of them are as good as Pon or Quoro, especially not Amazing J for Quoro, but I do think that they both have improved as players because they have been on the starting roster, but I don't know, man. I just don't know about that decision. I guess we'll see come playoff time, see how they perform.
All right, Kelsey?
I think it was honestly they were just so comfortable that it was like, why not take these players on our roster and give them a chance to play and to learn from our main team, and then so we can put them back in LSPL next split, and we'll have this really awesome team. But much to their chagrin,
really cool.
Much to their chagrin, ADG couldn't handle the pressure, and they got relegated.
Relegation. That was just that team.
So they can't necessarily do that. I guess they can still play the qualifier and get back in theoretically, except not.
You can always just purchase a slot.
They can always. That's true. You can always just buy one. That's the way LSPL works. You just buy a slot.
When in doubt,
literally, 50% of the slots are just bought, pretty much. So
they just go to the marketplace, and I was like, I'll buy an LSPL slot for. I don't know. It won't cost that much for me. Ha rich. It's just that's beautiful. All right, next one. LGD Hype Train. I promised we'd talk about this, and it's obviously I have a list right in front of me.
Shaoxi, it's your chance to say something.
It's your time. Hit it. Hey, how's it going? All right. I hope that doesn't make it that awkward. So, Shaoxi, how do you think you performed? Okay, no, we're not gonna have an awkward silence on this show. There are enough awkward silences. How'd you guys think that Shaoxi did? Start with Kelsey. No, you know what? Screw you, Kelsey. I've started with you far too often. You get out of here. All right, Emily, it's your time to shine.
I don't think it's as much about Shaoxi being this super, because we've talked about LGD before. It's not about Shaoxi being super carry jungler. He suddenly comes in and lights the world on fire, because that's actually not what LGD needs. They just need someone who's not gonna die and make questionable decisions. And in terms of not dying and making questionable decisions, I think Shaoxi is working out a lot better than TBQ did. And that's the main difference. We saw a lot of creative things from LGD, like the aforementioned swap that Kelsey mentioned. And I think, obviously, they cared a lot more this week than they have in previous weeks. And it's just really awesome to see this team coming together, especially after, I was super hyped to see them in Demacia Cup, and then Imp couldn't play because of visa issues. So we had God V80 carry. As awesome as that is, it obviously didn't get them very far in Demacia Cup. So, I'm super excited for this team. I think they're one of the top teams in China, as I said last time, and then recently in an article, which apparently I got a lot of crap for on Chinese forums, so I'm sorry, but I still believe that. And I think that Shaoxi is really important to kind of catapulting them above where they have been with TBQ, only because he's just a little bit safer.
Mm-hmm.
I also actually think his team fight engagement sense, and in that sense, has been better in the games that he's played than TBQ. That's that I have a much larger sample size to go off of from TBQ, but there was a lot less randomly engaging on Lee Sin while the rest of your team is on the other side of the map, and actually there was really good follow-up and synergy between Gragas and Alistair in the last game they played against M3, where he would just flash, and then PYL was right there. And I feel
Yeah.
like that was, as much as TBQ and PYL have played together, that was something I've never really seen them do, like execute extremely well. And you always see Godby doing those things, right? Like the crazy flashes and initiates. And I did an interview with Godby where he actually, I just got the questions back, and he said that, like, the team has decided that my role is to get the kills and to clean up at the end. But if he's, like, engaging the fight, chances are he's not necessarily going to be around to do that and get the gold and carry in the late game. So it's something that, if that's what they want his role to be, like having a jungler who does that more often, is going to be better in the long run, and a support jungle who can combo those kinds of things, because we always talked about how Godby would use Varus, right, to do the engagements, and then you would always have to have something first, and then TBQ could follow up with the Sejuani ultimate. But if he tried to do it on his own, he would miss a lot of Sej ults or all these other things. I'm not, like, hyping Xiaoxi up ridiculously. I still think he's just, like, amateur, and I don't even think of, like, we've talked about World 6 before on Vici Gaming. We talked about ZZR earlier today, of, like, the solo queue Chinese junglers that have been picked up. He's probably the third best, like, overall.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But I still think that's literally all LGD needs. Like, putting a carry jungler would completely change their dynamic and the way the team is set up. But this just lets them move around, like, do those, like, I don't think people necessarily understand how complex a swap like that is. Like, what they did against Snake in that game was so good. It was
super cool.
It was, like, really, like, everyone obviously, if Godby went 15-3-8, like, that's awesome. Okay? But, like, the super cool thing is, like, once Godfrey hit 6, they could transition him up to counter the Fizz in the top lane, and they could transition Imp up to play the Corki into the Ezreal in the mid lane, and they could transition Flame down to do the 2v1 as Shen. That's, like, super complex, right? They didn't miss the CS when they did that. They timed the waves perfectly in this transition when I went back and watched it, and... like, they did the thing which is necessary against Snake. We just talked about how now they're a much more solo lane-focused team. They used those lane counters, like, effectively, that you wouldn't typically see to shut down you and Flandra.
Yeah.
Like, it was beautiful. It's like, how many times did they practice it a lot? And then in the Godby interview, it's like, in the end, he was like, someone asked him, why did you use teleport? He's like, oh, I just, like, teleport on Diana because I get poked down. And it's just like, are you serious? Like,
oh my god.
So if they just did that on the fly, which I'm kind of skeptical of that's, like, amazing. So that's all.
That's what I thought. I think my initial reaction when I saw that was that kind of play needs to be practiced a lot. And it's really rare from a team to be able to pull something off so perfectly like that. Just on, like, on the spot kind of decision. And if the team does that, then you have yourself a world-class team. Like, legitimately, put them into any situation, they can recognize the best position to put themselves in, and just to utilize it. Like, that kind of shit, that's literally not even just world-class, that's like something #1 team in the world can do. But I don't even think I want to have proof that they're able to do that again. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
And in a different setting with different, like, matchups, kind of like that they can just make these lane assignments that are just so smart. I want to see them do that again, and then I'm gonna ride that hype train.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I got super excited about that one play, but they've done, like, more exciting things. Like, they gave Chaogu the runaround, they gave OMG a runaround in Demacia Cup, even though they had their players on different champions, like, in playing different roles. And it was just, they were able to time these situations where, like, they forced Punish to, like, commit suicide under tower because he's like, oh no, I'm losing the trade. Of course, Punish didn't have to do that, but he literally panicked. Like, you could tell in the way he was playing. Yeah. Like, I don't know, it's just so many... Again, it's just all about seeing them keep doing those sorts of things over time. And I think Xiaoxi facilitates that because he's not going to get caught out in random jungle invades and completely destroy their strategy before they're able to execute it.
Alright, then Q 3 months later, here comes Worlds. LGD, like, does okay, and then people are like, I thought Kelsey told me that he was the second coming of Clear Love. What happened? What's going on here? It's just like... the next AMA Kelsey makes 3 years ago, people were like, I'm just making, it's like, you just can't, I don't know what happened, Kelsey, what went wrong?
Where was Playlove?
Where was Playlove? Alright, so let's just move on to the next one. OMG hype? Tricycle? Oh god, I love how people ring. This was you, Emily, wasn't it?
I couldn't think of anything
It's like
else.
they're not
like,
a train. Let's have a tricycle.
So, OMG is doing well in a very awkward kind of way. So, Emily, how do you want to rate OMG's success?
I think that OMG, I maintain that they're better off without Uzi, and I think that actually is, like, kind of unfortunate. But in this current meta, I think it suits them better. I think the main problems that OMG has to address, like, the glaring one, in my opinion, is Xiang. Unfortunately, like, even throughout their games this weekend, especially since you can see Loveling and Cool kind of back together, you can see the team really trying to figure out, like, find their old footing, and kind of then improve from there. I think Xiang is kind of a unfortunate, like, glaring weakness that they have, like, both in drafting and then just in, like, team fight targeting and engaging, and he's just, like, not the most versatile in that position. And that, like, if they want, because we're talking about OMG going into regional qualifier and then it, like, possibly trying to go to Worlds, like, that's something that's really, really going to hold them back still. I think they still this week made some really questionable draft decisions, just, like, overall. And so, like,
it's putting it mildly.
Cool. Yeah, like, I don't want to, like, hate on them, but it's cool to see them, like improving somewhat. It's unfortunate. Like, I think they said that Uzi is injured, right? Is that why he's not playing?
That's why they said, yeah.
So, I mean, it's worked out for them with North right now, which I think is really cool. I do think North, like, my opinion is that...
cool, you say.
You know it's cool up north. Oh my god, I've already saved you from reading. You better
get going.
I've already saved you guys from reading the next 30 OMG articles coming out before Worlds. Or at least, like, the title of them, I mean.
I do think they should. I don't know what's... I don't know what they're considering with Going, but I do think, like, whatever he is doing, like we touched upon previously, has to be kind of better than what Xiang offers the team right now. I do like the fact that his
requirement is that he has to have stream honeys on stage with him while he's performing.
That's fine, as long as it's in top lane. And I think North is good. I think he frees up the team so that they can give more resources to Loveling and Cool, which I think works. I'm sure Kelsey has, like, a rant prepared about those two, so I'll leave that to her. But I do appreciate that that's kind of going back to what worked for OMG in the past, and giving them more resources definitely works out in their favor. But they do have a lot of drafting issues to solve, and they do have Xiang, who can only play a certain amount of champions and just isn't up to the rest of the top lane talent in the region.
Hi.
There we go.
Okay, and he played New Top, which was, like...
That was awesome, by the way. If you guys haven't seen that game, that's probably the most hilarious game I've seen all season in any region.
Whenever I see a new top, I just, like...
And the camera guy just managed to capture, like, the best facial reactions from Cool and Dade during the entire game. It was, like, so good. It was hilarious.
That's actually the most rewatchable game of my life.
It's like it was funny because it's like it was the same day as that Snake LGD lane swap game, so you had this, like, really interesting strategic game, and then you had, like, New Top and Twisted Fate, like, T-porting to to wherever Dade was on the map, and it's just like you're literally suiciding every time, but then Dade would use ult, and then the rest of OMG would force a team fight, and you're like, that's calculated, no, Cool just really thought he could solo him. Like, I guarantee that was his thought process. But, yeah, so the thing is that the rumor that Xiao Xiao gave on stream, and we lost Raz for a second here, but the rumor that Xiao Xiao gave on stream is that the spring lineup, going, leveling, Cool, UZI, and Cloud will return. All I can really say is there's slightly more credibility to the, why did you have to close the thing? There's slightly more credibility toward this Xiao Xiao rumor than to typical Xiao Xiao rumors. But I don't know exactly, like, how much is true or how much is not true. So we might see the going, leveling, Cool, UZI, Cloud lineup this weekend, or we might not. Like, again, it would be up to the Gauntlet. Suddenly everything matters, so let's pull out all the guns. We can get them to get along for, like, maybe a few games before it implodes again, so we might as well do it now to see if we really have, like, a World Championship roster on our hands or not. Sorry about the overlay. I am not sure what happened to Raz, but hopefully...
I hope he's not in a tornado warning.
Hopefully he'll be back soon. Until then, he'll just have to handle me hosting. Hopefully we're almost done. I was just going to do a short rant about OMG and how their greatest strength is Cool and leveling, but it's also their greatest weakness, because when one of them does well, they both do really well, but if one of them does poorly, like, they both just do terribly. So, like, they've just they synergize so well. I've literally watched games where leveling goes down to gank a lane, he, like, can't figure out the right angle to approach. Instead of, like, calling Cool to come down to the lane to gank with him, he physically will walk back to, like, move his character back to mid lane, and then, like, Cool will come with him back down to bottom lane. It's like he has to, like, Mom! And it's just, I don't understand, like... It's so weird to watch, but it's so good when it works, so...
I was going to say the way, and I mentioned this off stream, but the way I was introduced to the team was through you in a Try and Talk episode when I was not part of it. And you were talking about their warding and how Cool does poorly if leveling doesn't ward specifically in the right spot, because he just, like, he expects it to be there. So he plays as if that ward is there. Yeah. Always.
And, like, I think part of one of their problems this game, like, the reason why the first game was so successful is when Cool is able to have a game impact that just opens up leveling's role on the map so well. And he can gank with Cool, like, they do their dive buddy, like, their dive synergy is really strong. You could always see OMG has this ridiculously high success rate with level 2 and level 3 dives just because of Cool and leveling synergy being so high. So that's... For them, that works, but if he's playing a champion that he's not good at, like Azir, he's just going to sit mid, and he's probably going to get dove a lot, or die, or just have zero impact, and then leveling's going to also have less of an impact. So it's just all going to be about getting those two, their correct champions, to have a successful game, and that's what OMG has always been about. And it was facilitated in part by Going, who could kind of back up, and, like, you could have two people invading the jungle, or he could roam mid and he could get Cool ahead, so that could get the entire chain going from Going's perspective. So the three of them in this regard, like, worked really well as a unit, and it's just seeing them not playing together kind of exposes some of the way that when you talk about team dynamics and how people work really well within this team and this setup and this strategy, you can really see that with OMG, like, without Going to an extent.
I'd agree. I guess my question to you would be then, like, how do you see this team, like, what do you think the best lineup for them is to make the most out of the players that they do have available and try to make a run through playoffs and qualifiers?
I would try Going, leveling, Cool, and San and Amazing. or I'd bring back Joy. I'd even consider bringing back Joy because as much as I really like Loveling, something about just like having this thing that's really good when it's on and just like completely falls apart is almost too risky. It's like way too China, you know what I mean? So
codependency.
So like I think you can have games where Joy has an impact without cool. So whereas I don't think we'll see that a lot on OMG.
Alright.
Okay, so the last thing...
And then the last thing was LSPL Playoffs.
Yes.
And then we're done.
So LSPL Playoffs have started. Both of my predictions were proven completely false. I thought WE Future was going to destroy Young Glory, and I thought that Starhorn Road Club was going to destroy Hyper Youth Gaming. Both of the games were close, though. Young Glory won, and... Young Glory won and Hyper Youth Gaming won. And part of the reason why I think those expectations were subverted is that Hyper Youth Gaming's big strength is going to be their AD carry XQ most of the time. And this meta has opened up a little bit. It's opened up like the Kog'Maws, and he was able to play Kog'Maw, Vayne, and Callista in the 3 games. So he was able to get a hyper carry all game. Raphael really loves his Lulu. He was allowed to play Lulu every game, so they just like got these comfort champions, and I mean, I could tell you how to play against Hyper Youth Gaming, and that's pretty much the opposite of how you play against Hyper Youth Gaming. It's like, were they not even paying attention to the other groups while this was going on? Like,
I'm happy because I like Hyper Youth Gaming.
I do too.
They make a lot of mistakes, but they're a really fun team to watch.
They're my favorite LSPL team to watch right now. They're just like kind of crazy and weird, and I really like XQ. I think he's a great player. Well, he's not a great player, but he's a good player that could be a great player someday. Like, I'm less high on him now, obviously, because he isn't laning with PYL. That was like a big thing.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah. But I still think he's really good. I don't think he's just like STYZ. And WE Future, they have a new maid. I don't like him as well as Narancia. So, yeah. Anything else we want to say? It continues. I actually think the sets tonight should be more interesting. Legend Dragon versus EPA, and then the other set, I forget what it is. It's Newbie versus... Yeah, I don't care about Newbie. Watch, Newbie's gonna just, like, raffle their bracket, like... Whatever, LSPL. I think just the way the groups are distributed really subverts your expectations. Like, I think all the other teams in Starhorn's group probably sucked. So...
I also think that... I mean, just an addendum to watching this season's LSPL versus last season's LSPL, I think you could, and like even though UP was kind of a surprise, like the 2 teams coming out of that, UP and Chaogu, like Chaogu looked good within the LSPL like context. I don't see 2 other teams in this LSPL being as good as either of those teams, or being as good as 2 bottom teams in the LPL. So like like RNG, UP, if they end up there, Vici Gaming, Team King, and WE.
Well,
so
my theory is that the LSPL Summer, there's a lot less investment in it than LSPL Spring, because LSPL Summer teams can't go to Worlds, right?
That's true.
LSPL Spring teams can. So my theory is that by the time LPL rolls around next time, whichever teams make it in, they're going to have at least half of their players replaced. So...
Probably.
Just like, if you're attached to these teams that qualify, don't be. Because they're not going to be the same teams that play in LPL.
My LSPL player finally made it in, so I'm happy.
Your
Amy.
Yeah. Amy deserved it. Amy earned it twice, so...
Yeah.
As crazy and as weird and inconsistent as he is, I think he's like really good at certain things.
Really awful with other things. I still love him though.
I still think like the 3 Chinese junglers that I'm highest on right now in terms of like where they could be in the future are still like Condi, Amy, and Crisis actually. I'm really excited.
Crisis,
Really
really.
excited for Crisis, yeah. Have you been watching Crisis?
I watched a couple. He was on Sejuani both times. His engages with Sejuani were really good, though.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
as good as-
a
I mean-
really good Nidalee player. Like, I think I've actually watched him stream, and his microing is like really solid. So
Nice. I'll have to watch out for Crisis.
yeah, he plays tonight. Woo! Go EPA. I think EPA's problem is that their carries are really trash. So luckily they're in a meta where top, jungle, and support are the most important roles.
Crisis will just carry them to victory.
Anyway, it looks like Raz is not coming back, so shoutouts. Xiaoxi, anything? I'd like to thank my sponsors. No, okay.
LGD Gaming.
For giving me a chance to play. No. Okay, so Emily, shoutouts.
I guess shoutouts to LOL Esports and Liquid Legends. Those are two places that I write. I have my next LPL thing is actually also kind of a Korea thing because I'm going to be writing about Dade, and that article should be out right now or coming out today or tomorrow. So sometime before LPL.
Dade hype.
So look out for that if you're a fan of Dade. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, shout out to the Score Esports. I just had an article published on LGD while we were talking about LGD, actually, very interestingly. So that's kind of a long one. It's about where I see them matching up against like the two, I guess, what people consider like the Goliaths, which are Edward Gaming and SKT, which are expected to do well at Worlds, and how I think they could actually overtake them and where those matchups are. Also, what Xiaoxi does for the team and what LGD's strengths are and how they're actually really well suited to doing well in the meta. So, yeah, I'm also continuously still doing an AMA on the League of Legends subreddit if you somehow missed that.
That's good. It's a good AMA. I enjoy
So.
the answers.
Okay.
Also, I still think that KT is going to fail me harder than OMGs.
I don't think you
They
understand. It's like
they
if
still never made it to World.
I mean, I guess you did have Hachani on your team, so
Oh man,
you had
Hachani.
Hachani on your team.
Those were the interesting days.
See, before Name made it to Worlds, I could still be like the hipster and be like, Name is the best AD carry in the world. You just don't know it. Like and then he goes to Worlds and he chokes, which is like the worst possible thing you can do because no one will ever remember you for anything else. Anyway, this has been Trying to Talk.
Sorry about the messed up overlay. And Raz, I actually hope that he's not in a tornado warning because he really was actually getting severe weather. So,
Yep. See you guys later.
thank you.
7th or 4th or whatever random placement we are, and then they find out, oh, actually it did matter. Oh, we should have kept our old top laner. We should have been as strong as we were in the spring split, because you know what? Now we are coming in here completely shat on. So like let's just go to the gauntlet elimination thing. 7th place versus 8th place. This is the most amazing match. We're starting off this playoff with with the best set here. Winner of that one goes on to face 6th place. So it's already, you can tell this is like a gauntlet, kind of similar to Korea, in which they had the gap.
I was confused at the part where you said it was like a gauntlet initially.
Really?
And then you said it was like a gauntlet. See that? That's
I hate you.
As you can already see, this is a gauntlet. As
So
you can
just so you
already
know,
see, this is a gauntlet.
It is a gauntlet, just so you know.
Just in case you were confused, it is actually a gauntlet.
It's a gauntlet. Anyways,
Yes.
so when let's say this magical World Elite team moves up to the 8th place, impossible already, but let's say World Elite, because we all love to believe in World Elite. So World Elite gets 8th place. World Elite has to play 7th place team. I don't give a hell. What is it?
Right now,
like,
that would be Invictus Gaming.
Invictus Gaming. Let's say magically Luca turns into the carry top laner. They beat out Invictus Gaming. They go into 6th place. They go to face 6th place, and whoever it is, they smash
Masters
6th
3.
place. Masters 3. They smash Masters 3. That's not even that unbelievable. So
It's really not. So that's like the thing about where I don't.
I was
Well,
surprised at the speediness of Koro's recovery as soon as the playoff format was announced.
Oh, by the
LPL.
way, we would like to introduce our friend Xiaoxi to the panel.
Oh, of course. Yes. I
Our
knew.
new favorite controller.
Drexen isn't here today because he had another obligation, but we asked Xiaoxi to come, and he hasn't been very vocal, but I mean, he looks kind of pretty, so.
There we go. Is he to my right? Where is he? Where am I?
He's to your left and down.
Bottom diagonally.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if I did that properly.
He's not looking at you. It doesn't matter.
Well, yep. Xiaoxi, looking spiffy, did really well. We'll talk about him a lot later on because I'll just say LDG. No, Lemon Dogs. Legend Dragons. This is just coming right all around. I'm sad. So anyways, LGD hype train has boarded. So let's talk about the playoff format, actually. Let's get in depth about that, because just before this episode, I actually had to ask myself, because what is this thing? It looks like a monster. It really does, with like 5 different heads. So, do we have it up on the screen right now?
No. Is this something that I was supposed to do?
No. So, I even if, like, I
Here, I'm going to link something in chat for people who are watching, so that they can...
I like to surprise them. It's just like, alright, get the graphic up. No. Where's the dragon? Where's the 3D?
I care that they changed the format so close to the end, because literally the point, how close teams are in the standings, is just like 1 point between each placing. It's not that hard to move up or down right now. Like, if you're a truly good team that's been sandbagging, you can move up pretty easily.
You can go all up.
This week.
Moving on.
Places they moved up.
And if you are a truly bad team like M3, you will get stomped quite convincingly, like they did. So let's say World Elite moves on to the next seeding here. So they face 5th place team. Guess what? Suddenly you have a safety net under you. You lose. Let's say you lose to who's LGD. Oh my God, that's just heartbreaking. I knew you didn't expect that, World Elite. So now, because you were a lower seeding and you lost, especially, you go up against the 3rd place team, who is
OMG.
Snake. OMG. Believable? They might win? Okay, so you beat OMG. Oh, that's beautiful. Alright, you're going on through. While, let's just say, I don't even care what happens in the top seeding. Let's say LGD wins. So now final stage. Everything matters here. Guess what happens? No, actually, should I go on to... you know what? Two scenarios.
You lost us all. Two
scenarios. 2 scenarios. You win, you beat 3rd place position, because you are the lower seeded team, regardless of whether or not you won the 5th place position, you have to face EDG. You have Demacia Cup Dragon. I thought we had that ready for this episode.
Okay, this has been a really weird episode. Anyway, already. So we're talking about the Demacia Cup format, which...
No. Playoff format.
No, playoff format, excuse me. Which has changed suddenly. And a lot of people have argued that it shouldn't have changed suddenly, that towards the end of this doesn't give teams enough notice. Waiting for the train to go by.
Oh, sounds like the story of my life.
Yeah. This doesn't give the teams enough notice, but the long-standing tradition in LPL is changing the playoff format at the last minute. See, because last spring they announced at the very end that it wasn't going to be double elim when it was supposed to be from the start. And then the split before at the very end, they announced that it was going to be double elimination, when it wasn't supposed to be beforehand. So it's just in keeping with tradition. Like, if you don't expect it at this point as an LPL team, you should just assume it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just how it is. At least with the previous format changes, they were reasonable in the sense that it was like, it still has the same value, except I have a second chance, or at least I don't have a second chance. This time it's like teams coasting by at 8th place or something, like little Vici Gaming coming here is like, oh well, we have enough time. Let's just get rid of this carry top laner here. I'll come up in the top lane. We have enough time. You know, it doesn't matter where we are in the standings as long as we are into episode 52 of China Talk. Oh man. We have not gotten old at all. Anyways, so LPL is winding down. Rather close. How many weeks do we have left? This is week 8 that we've gone past, I think, or week 9?
Week 8,
Week
we just
8.
finished.
This is
Yeah.
week 9 coming up.
It's confusing to me because we used to be 1 week ahead of LCS and now we're not. So just
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Demacia Cup.
Woo! Still got a few weeks to go, 3 more weeks, week 9, week 10, and week 11. Usually that would be the time for teams to pretty much troll out, but a new day has come
New day
where teams
has
actually
arrived.
care about the playoff format. So I guess that leads into the first topic really well. Oh my god, teams care. So, they cared so quickly that it was like, whoa, what are we doing? Alright, get Koro in here. Everybody in the proper seating. Bayami's like, do I get to play? Get out of here, buddy. We're done with you. We're done with you.
No more, baby.
Hit the road.
Amazing Jay's like, but I said in that Demacia Cup interview that I'm literally the best. Well, you're not.
We're not
Spoiler.
sorry. We would have told you before, but we only got the playoff format this week.
I like
so.
how the narrative was that both Koro 1 and Pawn were injured. So, like, leading up to Demacia Cup, Pawn was magically, like, recovered just in time for Demacia Cup. And then after Demacia, and then, like, as the format changes, Koro magically recovers.